And this gives me a great opportunity to transition to talk about three teams that we thought would this specific conversation about best team in the league, MVP. These are the things that we were talking about with all three of these teams. That is the Baltimore Ravens, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Buffalo Bills. Two of the three teams got wins. Mm-hmm. I wasn't convinced by either win, right? I think they got wins. The Chiefs came back in the fourth quarter. Baltimore had a iffy first half, played much better in the second half, but against a bad football team, and Buffalo lost against Houston and got dominated by that defense. I want to ask you this, Jamie. If you could rank these three teams in order of who you trust the most to, if they come out and they're in the playoffs, to go on a postseason run, in order, one, two, three.
Okay,
yep,
so
in order.
One, I'm still going to say the Kansas City Chiefs. And at the end of the day, they have the ultimate trump card, and that is Patrick Mahomes. He has he's got rings, plural. We could talk about Andy Reid's offense and whether or not they've done enough to evolve this year or not, but he's got rings, plural. Oh, by the way, the defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, rings, plural. This is a team that has its flaws. This is a team that has issues. I know they were able to run the ball today with Kareem Hunt, but in general, they've not run the ball well. Their short passing game hasn't been as dominant as an extension of the run game as it's been in years past. Their defense showed up really well today, particularly in the fourth quarter and overtime. But just a law of attrition as you start to pay guys get older, guys leave. They haven't been as good as they've been in the past. But if you tell me they get into the postseason, they're not a team you want to play. They're in a bunch of win or go home one game playoff scenarios. I do not want to play this football team, particularly because I don't think anybody in the AFC is very dominant. And to me, you look at some of the teams at the very top of the AFC that they might be going on the road to play against. They're teams with young quarterbacks, young other pieces, teams that have played well like Denver. Will you really, even if they have to go into Denver, are you going to pick the Broncos and Bo Nix in a playoff game? Not saying they couldn't win. Of course they could.
Yeah,
but would you pick them? Would you feel good about it, even if the game's in Mile High? Would you feel good about Drake May and the Patriots? Despite, I know you love Mike Vrabel and that team's well coached and they've got some really fun pieces, but they haven't beaten teams like the Chiefs yet. And they haven't been, that core team has not been in that scenario yet. That win or go home, all the pressure is on you. And so to me, they're still the number one team. They've got all the pieces. Number two is where it gets really interesting because you have two teams that have extended runs to get to the postseason, and both teams have always ended the year in disappointment. Right? Both of these teams have MVPs, plural, as quarterbacks, but haven't been able to get the job done late in the postseason. And in the case of Buffalo, a lot of times at the hands of Kansas City.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Buffalo here slightly over Baltimore. And here's why. Lamar looks hurt. And I have he says at the podium today, I'm fine. Injury's not an issue. They're a factor. He's not running almost at all. He had the hamstring issue. I think he had both his ankles taped up pretty heavy in this game today against the Jets. They've won a lot of games in a row. They've gotten themselves back in it, and they're probably going to win the division because, Pittsburgh's completely fallen off. Cincinnati's not going to get there in time. We'll talk about them later in the show, and the Browns are still the Browns. But at the end of the day, I still have concerns about this defense. Derrick Henry has been good at times, but it's not been the Derrick Henry of a couple years ago. If Lamar isn't Superman, I don't know what they're going to do in the postseason. And quite frankly, as big of a Lamar fan as I have been, he hasn't been good in the playoffs. And so to me, if even with Buffalo's flaws, which there are plenty, and particularly on the defensive side of the ball, I still are going to trust them a little bit more because Josh Allen is healthy. And I still think at the end of the day, their defense is better than Baltimore's, even though it's not good. And it will be interesting to see if both these teams, they're going to, Bills might have to go on the road. I think that's the interesting part because they're probably not going to catch New England, where Baltimore's at least going to get a home game to start out. But I'm not sure any of these teams get past, maybe winning one game on Wild Card weekend, right, the way that they look right now.
No, I'm in total agreement with you. I have them ranked in order exactly how you have them. You can't, until you knock out the king, they're still the king. Right. And that's how you feel about the Kansas City Chiefs. You cannot count them out until they are totally out, and ask the Indianapolis Colts about counting them out, because today they had the opportunity to put gas pedal down and they played not to lose a game instead of to win a game, and they put themselves in a bad position because that could have been the jugular right there. They could have
Yeah.
took them out today, and they didn't. And you cannot allow championship teams with championship caliber players, you cannot let them lay around. You can't let them sit right here and not put them away. And until they're totally put away, there isn't a single team the Chiefs are going to be intimidated to go play. They're just not. They've won too much. That's too many times they've been together. It's the core trio is still there. The coaches are still there. So I'm in agreement with you there. I think the biggest thing for me, and it was tough, I had the same kind of
Yeah.
problem you did in going 2-3, is because I so desperately want to put the Ravens too. But I know, and I talked about this last week on the show, the statistics will show you that Lamar is not the same version of Lamar. He's running 35% less than he was last year. He is there. This is not like, hey, yeah, he can tell you he's fine, but his hamstring is just not going to heal. Anybody who's ever had a hamstring injury, you understand the only way for your hamstring to totally heal is total rest. And they are not afforded the opportunity
Yeah.
because of the way that they started the year for him to actually sit and get totally healthy. And because of that, if Lamar can't be the best version of Lamar, and they're not going to get a bye because they're not going to be at the top of the AFC, then they're screwed, because Lamar is not going to, his hamstring will only heal once they get to the offseason, and he could take 6 weeks off of football. That is the only way for him to get totally healthy. And so because of that, I have to go with Josh Allen. And I know that the Ravens have won 5 in a row, and I know that they look much better right now. But watch Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Watch this offense and tell me the eye test tells you that this team looks the same, because it doesn't. It doesn't,
No,
Jamie.
and there was a play, and I wish I remembered the exact moment, but there was a play in this game where Lamar kind of scrambles to his right, and you can
I know
kind of see
exactly what
there's
you're
a
talking
little
about.
bit of room up to the sideline, and he just
Uh-huh.
kind of stops and accepts getting tackled right around the line of
Of
scrimmage, and that's not something you've seen from Lamar Jackson before, and that tells
no,
me he's more hurt than he's letting on.
of
Because
course.
like you've seen a lot from Lamar, you've heard teammates, you've talked to teammates that have been around Lamar. This is a high effort guy. This is a guy that
Yes.
cares so much about
Mm-hmm.
winning every play, every game. That's not something a healthy Lamar Jackson does. That is, I don't have confidence in my body to get around the corner like I normally would
For
there to
sure.
pick up 7 or 8 or even more, maybe break one. And that's what really scares me is I don't think there's enough overall talent. You got guys like Kyle Hamilton who's amazing, and they're using him all over the field. I mean, he's lining up literally in every position, but he's getting hurt
Yeah,
twice a game because he's playing so much.
I know.
I just don't think they have the horses this year to do it unless they get a superhuman performance from their quarterback, who normally has been able to give that to them, but it does not look like he's going to be able to do it this year. I do think they
No.
win the division still, but I don't really see a prolonged postseason run from them, especially considering they haven't been able to do it with better teams.
Correct. And that's, I just, unless Lamar Jackson can be special, that team can't go on a run.
Yeah.
And that, without his legs, without what makes Lamar so dynamic on the football field, it's hard to imagine them going on a run unless Derrick Henry turns into 2019 Derrick Henry. That's the only way. Like, if Derrick Henry all of a sudden hits the fountain of youth and starts running the football at a crazy clip, that would be the only thing that could
Yeah.
save them from this, because Lamar, like I said, he's not going to get enough rest to rest his hamstring in totality. And it very clearly, you can see him pulling up in moments where, as you alluded to, just talking about the type of person he is, he's the guy who hits himself in the head when he makes a
Yeah.
mistake, right? This is like the ultimate level of competitor. So you know that for right now, for him, this has to be extremely frustrating. And you saw him sit out for the first time in a long time for multiple games this
Yeah.
season. So, and you knew that they could not afford to take those games off because they were in such a bad position to begin the year. But the last point I'll make here is the reason I'm putting the Buffalo Bills too, even more so aside from the Lamar stuff, is I saw an MVP Josh Allen performance last week. 6 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 3 like, of the 2 quarterbacks, who have I seen this
Yeah.
season put on a show? I saw Josh Allen do it. And that's because Josh is still healthy no matter what goes on. And Keon Coleman hopefully figures out what the hell he's got going on, or stays out of
Yeah.
trouble, or stops doing whatever the hell he's doing in Buffalo. I don't know how you can find trouble in Buffalo, New York, but that's a conversation for another day.